My face out something. They probably brought it up. Which we can have. Or studying by notes that camel now action.
I was like, the math's not.
Oh, I'll run with. I'm calling. You also said it.
I say we did part of yes.
That's right.
That's interesting. Yes, it's just a chat. And sometimes what helps is that we go through application. Over the week.
Yeah. So
Yes. Yeah. People. So yes, this year I have been prepared. I'm having the same problem, so I don't go around.
Close
Yeah, if you're struggling, I can try to take care of it. Great.
they have in the five.
When we all had the same problem, like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
I just asked them, so we can start with stuff. But we can street.
That's not just news. That's what happened.
Okay, commissioners, are we all ready?
Yeah, I think we're on.
So we are live streaming, recording, so I'll hand it over to our chair.
Perfect. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and call to order the July 2025 Victorian Village business meeting. So, I'm sorry, commission hearing today. So, our next business meeting will be Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, 12 noon, and that's at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 205, so that's back across the street. Our next hearing date will be Wednesday, August 13th, 2025, 4 p.m. And that's going to be at 141 North Front Street, first floor conference room, which is the room that we're in today. Can I go ahead and swear this out? Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, and for the record, Kimberly Bernard-Sheen.
Kimberly, perfect. I want to go ahead and introduce commissioners present, so I'll start with VP.
Schuler, Reed Sprite,
Sean Conyer.
Tim Skinner, Kevin Perzik.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. I'll go ahead and swear in. Just the introduction of staff president, overview of hearing format. So it's like there's no way we can do it.
Yeah, there's some new faces as opposed to returning folks that we're used to, I think. But a quick breakdown of how the commission format goes is the city staff shall present the application. Then the applicants and their owners shall be sworn in and has to present any additional materials if needed. Registered speakers will then be sworn in and provided 3 minutes to speak each if we have them for an application. And then the commissioners will discuss the case and ask questions as needed.
Thank you, Kimberly. So we'll go ahead and move to approval of minutes from last meeting.
Motion to approve June meeting.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved. Kimberly, I'm going to circle back to approval of staff approval. Is there a motion? Motion open to the record.
Motion to approve, staff approvals as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wait, can we, are there any abstentions?
All right, let's leave go.
First, sorry.
It's okay. I think the new space is going to throw us all off.
Oh, it's kind of odd, but I think it-
Yes, if anybody would like to follow along, it starts on page 4 of the agenda with 55 West Star Avenue, 114 West First Avenue, 939 Neal Avenue, 1063 Highland Street, 984 Delaware Avenue, 250 West Poplar Avenue, 1017 Highland Street, and 982 to 984 Highland Street.
So Chair will be you for any staff reports and new applications.
No public forum today. Just for the record, and I will start off with application number 1. If the applicant would like to come up while I'm reading the staff report, they're welcome to do so. So this application is 96 West Star Avenue. This application is to remove stairs on the side of the house and secure the second story exterior door with a box and blocking. And then tuck point the historic mortar along the side of the house as necessary. Commissioners at the business meeting were curious about how the door would be fixed shut, whether that would be from the inside or the outside. The applicant has clarified that a block of wood would be screwed in on the inside of the home to prevent the door from being opened inward where the stairs were demolished, as the door does open to the interior of the home. And then the commissioners also inquired if additional modifications will need to be done at the ground level, and the screen door would remain in addition to the other door. Staff recommended approval of the application with any and all clarifications submitted to HBO staff for review prior to issuance of certificate. And the basis for recommendation is based on City Code 3116.11, the standards for alteration.
Can you state your name, sir, and get you sworn in?
Nate Ryan.
You can tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thanks. Turn over to you.
Okay.
Anything you want to add about the proposed, work or?
Just that the stairs are non-contributing to the home. The home was originally a single family converted to a multifamily, and I believe in the early 2010s converted back to a single family. So this is one of the remaining pieces that would help complete the single family transition, and also the stairs channel water towards the home, causing damage to the interior and exterior, which is necessitating the removal.
Thoughts? Anything? That clarification, I think, helped on the door from a safety perspective. Yeah. Is there a motion?
Motion for patient COA 25-00-595, 96 West Star, as for approval as submitted.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion.
You all?
All right, then we're going to move on to application number 2. This application is for 362 Wilbur Avenue. This is, yes, go ahead and come on, I'll finish reading the staff
Okay, I'm
report.
hard of hearing.
This is to replace retaining bricks around flower beds and replace the existing retaining wall. Commissioners at the business meeting requested a site plan and construction details of the wall. They wanted to know if there was drainage or anything behind the stone, and the applicant did clarify that there's just dirt behind the wall. More information on the material was requested, such as the cover product sheet or information from the store it was purchased at. The commissioners were curious if additional landscaping work would occur, such as planting of flowers, bushes, or trees. And HBO staff will be inquiring with the Department of Public Service if the sign that's currently located there can be relocated. I have inquired, I have not heard anything. I will be following up with somebody different as well. The commission will need to discuss if the material, installation, and device type are appropriate. HBO staff is concerned with the dry stacking of the wall as it appears that the walls lean towards the sidewalk a little. It's recommended that the stones aren't stacked with the seams lined up. Staff does recommend approval of the application with any and all modifications to be reviewed by HBO staff and or a subcommittee prior to issuance of the certificate. Basis for recommendation is City Code 3116, verse 16.13, the standards for site improvement, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines on counters and yards.
Thank you, Kimberly. Can you state your name, ma'am, and get you sworn in? Just state your name. Just state your name.
I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you just state your name?
My name is Sharon A. Hill, Hill.
Perfect. Do you agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead. Anything that you want to add about the proposal or the scope? of work?
About the what?
The scope of work that's being proposed, application?
Okay. The question was, she thought might have been a drain behind the wall. It's not. It's on the side, and it comes down. It comes out into the street. And so in front of my house, I make sure all the leaves and stuff, it runs to the corner where the drain is. It's one on the right side and is connected to PVC. And then the other one, it's like it comes down, but it's right on the outside and it just run down. And them little rocks, the neighbor and I, we made like a little trough and put some rocks so it can not overflow and come straight down into the street. So that's what them rocks, and then it was like something just to guide it, the water.
Turn over to commission comments about that. Else if you want.
I didn't hear what else. At first it was about the wall, and she was concerned about the sign. And for me, it's okay that it was there because it's for my use. And as I stated last time, I believe the reason they put it there, so it wasn't for, it was just for one parking place, instead of the whole parking place. So that's what I believe they did. But there's no drainage. As I had stated, I grew up there. I've been over there over 60 years, and it's not. We tried to level the yard where you go up the steps and that sideway, so it wouldn't be a hump for the kids to play. So we tried to level it out because it became a mudslide every time it rained and it dripped. And so that's, and it was my Mother's Day gift from my son. He thought it'd be nice.
We'll turn it over to commissioners for comments, if that's okay.
Okay.
We'll probably talk about materials. We'll probably talk about the installation. We'll probably talk about maybe what that next step is, maybe the height. We'll probably talk about, and we'll probably have some comments relatable to that.
Okay. Okay.
It's a component.
Since we already talked about the drainage, maybe a clarification of, I think, where the commission was heading on our potential concern there was not so much of drainage around the wall, but as you built this wall, the drainage that has been coming down the slope and creating that issue for you, that's now percolating down into the ground, and it's putting pressure against this new wall that you're creating.
No, it comes around it. The dirt is just old and it was a hump trying to level it out, but it's no drainage coming under there that's pushing it out. It's just an old foundation.
Well, that wall is holding up on the back side of it. So that's just kind of our recommendation of typical detail of that you do provide a little bit of gravel and something for that water to release itself back into the system without putting too much pressure on the back of the wall. And that's just setting you up for success, long-term durability of that wall.
So for instance, if you're.
Can I come up?
Yes, ma'am. Just come up right here.
Well,
That's okay.
oh.
Just be careful right here.
I'm
Just
sorry.
stand right here. That's okay. Just make it easy for yourself. So what Tim is referencing, so you see how the wall is kind of articulating,
Yes.
right? So what happens when it rains back here? When it rains here, I know your drainage coming off of your downspouts are going around, but when it rains here in the yard itself, that water has to go somewhere, right?
Yes, it's not the downspout that's making it look like that. There's a drain underneath the dirt that comes down.
Right. So what's going to end up happening is if the installation is not correct and is not accounted for drainage behind the wall, what's going to happen is this wall is going to continue to fall, and that wall is going to fall forward, and then your wall integrity is going to be jeopardized. So what we're saying is that that detail of how it's installed is really, really critical to allow that water to go through it so it doesn't doesn't top over the wall.
Okay, so what should you suggest I do?
Yeah, and I think we can make some recommendations on that.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'm just gonna leave her here if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's maybe beneficial to talk with
Yes.
her that way.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
That's
Yes,
fine.
we can take and trench that dirt and straighten it up.
Yeah.
It's not because it's something under there. It's
Sure.
just that dirt was
I understand.
blocked over the years, but
So we have drainage, right? And so I think Kimberly, would you be able to provide, I think that that's one thing that we may need to help with, is providing a detail relatable to an
dig that dirt
installation,
out.
a typical installation, or would that be something that she would have to provide as far as her application?
I would have to check,
Okay,
just because I don't know what my level of skill is.
understand.
And I don't know if we have an example, but I can
Okay.
try and see if we have something.
So we're gonna take that's number one is the drainage. And I think that Kimberly is gonna try to go back and look and see if she can help you with maybe how this is installed. If she can't help you, then what you're gonna have to do is try to come up with a detail by talking to someone that would be a proper way of installing it, whether it be a contractor, whether it be someone that is a landscaper. They would have, here is a typical detail, it would have gravel, it would have all of the things to keep the integrity of the wall in place. So it's only going to help you long term.
Okay,
Okay.
And there's probably a good chance that wherever you got the material from, that whether it's, even if it's Lowe's, that there might be somebody there that can help provide some guidance on the typical installation.
I don't think,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So that's number one is drainage. So what I think we're checking that one off the box, right? Okay, so I'm gonna open up the floor to the team. What are the next one that we're going to?
I think it's this, the vertical stacking of the straight up on, not crossing over the seam. I don't know how you say that.
Okay. So the installation, I think right now this material is, each block is stacked on top of one another. right?
Yes,
So what happens is typically these blocks they kind of overlap one another. So side by side, the next one runs in the middle. And right, so what happens is you stagger the joints and then that keeps and maintains the integrity of it.
Right.
It helps with the strength of it. So right now, this piece here, when pressure is pushed onto it, that segment is going to fall.
okay,
Typically, if it was, think about a shoelace, right? It's laced together a little bit more, then this wall would act all as one thing, and then it would help the integrity of the wall. Okay, so that's the other item that's observed. Team, another one, maybe I'm sorry.
Well, I would add that in terms of the details there, to Tim's point, when you go to Lowe's or whoever supplied the block, they would be able to tell you that this is how this is supposed to be installed.
Right.
You stagger them so that it has that strength.
They would probably have, with the product data, they would probably give you some installation, like some best practice installation, kind of sheets, and that would probably have a lot of good feedback on that.
okay.
Anything?
Well, I feel the height seems appropriate or close to it, but I think the important thing to consider here, and we have a photo that shows it, the return of that. So
At the walk.
yeah, so right now it just kind of ends at the sidewalk. And so you got that exposed mound behind it, the grass there. Really what we would like to see typically is to return that So made a right angle, a corner to the wall. We turn it back towards the stairs. That's gonna kind of keep everything contained on the sides.
Okay, yes, that's why he was just kind of playing with it to see what works and what looks nice. And so he wasn't finished, but yes, I'll take it back.
But that'll help you, right? Because you think about it, see the grass transitions now to gravel, right? So now when the rain hits, all of this is actually going to run over. So that's what I hope.
Yes,
If you can take this and return it back, it's going to help you in the end make that transition.
yes, because he had put that new sod down and that's why it looked like that. Yes.
So it'll help clean that up.
Okay,
And that would happen on both at the stair locations and then are we looking at it at the end of the
Yeah.
property?
Hard to tell if they really do.
Okay. That condition. And then the opposite, and I don't know about on the inside, one side.
And that goes to strength as well. So if you have a corner, it pulls it off.
yes, I know what you're saying.
Yep.
I know what
And that helps you with that wood product. You
Yes.
just keep using the material to go replace the wooden border that
Oh.
you have there. Right? So it gives it a corner, which is nice and strong, and it helps you without, it covers up all that dirt with the wall.
I think on this end, we're probably gonna be running up against that covenant, so it may, if it does a return, it might be a real short return. So it may just be, when you make that return, when you're making it against the stairs, you're probably gonna come all the way back up to the stairs. But on the ends, like by that tree, you may just be going one course, just a short return, just to give it again that stability, but not start to impact the tree.
Okay. Yes, I will, yes, I'll have him tighten it up and do it so return and make it,
Same thing there where,
Yes.
you don't necessarily need to come all the way up on the whole side, but just a short return there, just to terminate, give it an end.
I was going to just touch on the height, maybe, right? So we were just looking at the height, and I know as part of it, so we feel a little bit of a sod to raise it up. We were wondering if you wanted to take one block down, lower this one block down, that would give you more blocks to make the return.
yeah, what we try to do is the sidewall, make it kind of even, because when you cut the grass, it dives down, so we try to even it out, but where the walkway, try to have it a little even. So you're saying you want me to take one of my blocks off?
Yeah, you can take one of these blocks up,
One row.
one row all the way across.
Okay,
And then that-
what about that cap? Can it stay?
The cap was set, the cap is set.
Okay, so take that one,
This block.
okay,
Taking that block, and that may give you more material to make these transitions, right?
So you can use those blocks to.
on the side,
That's right.
okay,
That's right.
okay.
But it actually, it probably give you a little bit better connection, from here.
That's steady.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you start to return that back, you don't want to be too much higher than this little,
You're right,
right? So
okay,
it probably helps you with that transition. Yes, sir. Okay,
okay.
all right, so we have heights, we have material, we have install. Is there anything else, team, that we're missing?
I mean, I think we talked about appropriateness of material. I think the type of block we have here with that finish is appropriate. Once we get the staggering of it, I think it's appropriate.
Okay, the stagger, take one out, the static on the side, we give the T, the
Yes, sir.
straighten it out.
Yes, sir.
That can be done,
Yes, sir.
not a problem.
And I think obviously you said it was a gift, right?
You're my son for my.
For sure. And I think what we're trying to do is maintain the integrity of the gift.
Okay,
So we just don't want to see it walk away, all of a sudden everything's gonna fall. But we're trying to help you prevent that.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anything else, team, that we're missing?
After that.
So I think our next step, what we would do is we would vote to continue the application. Right? If you're willing to make those modifications and work with HPO staff to be able to, provide her a detail, work on the application, go back and look at some of the things that we suggested. And then you would come back and then we would vote on that new material
Okay.
to be able to clear
Me
the application. Yes, ma'am. And then you would be able to move forward with whatever, you know, it's the install product data, whatever you're willing to do as part of your application, then we would vote to move that forward. And we'll go ahead and do it at that time.
Could I maybe play devil's advocate for a
Yes,
second?
yes, sir.
Would it be, you know, to reduce the number of meetings?
Yeah, I
that
agree.
the applicant might not want to come back necessarily? Should we vote on an approval with those conditions? You know,
Yeah.
changing the bonds, changing the,
Awesome. I would have to shape it over, really in terms of what she's willing to do.
is that too
And
many?
that's important.
Yeah, I would suggest either, approval with staff or subcommittee.
Okay.
So I'm not a landscape architect. So
But
more comfortable if I had at least one other set of eyes looking at some of these details that were requested.
I think that makes sense. There's a committee review that I can lead for that assistance.
Okay.
I'd be willing.
Yes, that's one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna change. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do a vote on the things, you seem like the things that we've suggested, that you're willing to do them,
Yes.
right? So what we're gonna do is go ahead and vote today on that. And then you would work with HPO staff to resubmit the materials. And then a subcommittee of a couple of us will just review it alongside of staff. And it will keep you from having to come back to the hearing. Is that okay? Awesome. Okay.
Thank
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to add some additional clarifications.
Yes.
So in the subcommittee review, I will send out the new feedback, which will outline everything that they're motioning with what we've discussed. So everything that you agreed to. And then I will do my part of getting that detail if I can find that detail, or if you beat you to it, you just mail that in. But you'll get the revised material and then you'll submit it to me, which we can do that, should be mail. Okay, I was gonna say, if you want me to stop by, I might be able to do that, but, okay. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll make sure everything is scanned into the computer so I can email the commissioners. I typically give them about a week to respond before I start harassing them, because they are volunteers, they do have busy schedules. And then once I hear back from them, I will, if they have changes, I would call you up to let you know what they're suggesting or what additional materials they're moving. But if it's a green light, go ahead, issue the COA, I will mail that to you.
Okay, I do have one question. Do I need to submit anything before we start taking the brick down and I have to submit that?
Okay.
Okay,
It's submitted, and then you have to have, you want to say, confirmation that that information is gonna move. Then you would be able to go and start working.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So how would I submit the material? And because my son and brothers, I was gonna report back to them what was said, and then they'll come out and do. So get the information from, he didn't get it from Lowe's. I think he got it, I don't know where he got the material from, but he can go back to that company and get a suggestion. I can submit that paper to you.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
that's what yes, I could do that.
And if they're willing to just draw anything out to show what they're doing, just like, I think that on the back of your paper there, Sean.
Okay.
Just something very, very simple.
Hold something.
That's
That's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and there's like a little photograph, and they can draw on the photograph.
Yeah, however, it's easiest for them to present it to us, but we just have to have that documentation in place.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. And I understand what you're saying, because I was just gonna do it. And then tell you what you're saying, you want it before, and so the clarification,
Great question. Great question.
yes.
All right, so you go ahead and sit down, and we'll go ahead and vote
Oh,
accordingly, and then that way we can chat.
do I sit here? or-
Yeah, no, go ahead, back to where you were seated, right there.
Okay.
So, a motion team. Yeah, I think maybe in the amendment, in the motion, we're just gonna spell out what that is that we talked about, just so it's clear.
Very slowly.
Yes.
because I'll get it right.
Okay, no worries. So,
I can take a stab at it.
yeah, sure, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, I would make a motion to, on COA 2500, 634 for 360 to 362 Wilbur Avenue to approve the application with the following conditions. That one force block be removed from the wall to lower its height, that the block be installed in a running bond pattern as opposed to a stack bond as submitted, and to provide further design for drainage on the retaining wall, and to provide returns at the stair and at the end of the wall as feasible, given site constraints.
I would also add, hot courses laid however manufacturing recommends.
And installed with manufacturer's recommended installation.
I'll second.
Somebody, some,
Exactly. And then we'll sign it up. It's gonna be accepted.
Did we have enough that really?
I think we have a little too much. What was the drainage one? Because I was not that fast to catch that one.
Drainage materials should be provided behind the wall.
either a cut sheet from the manufacturer or something.
Something we may have. Commissioner Skinner, Commissioner Parzak.
All right, are we gonna, we have a second on it then?
Now, I say right now, second of the subcommittee members.
Any further dialogue on?
Good.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, before I leave, I'm gonna write down so I won't forget.
Yes, so, Ms. Hill, I'll send you the minutes probably in about 3 to 5 business days, which will have, what the commissioners put in their motion. So you'll have that, paper copy.
So you don't have to write it down now if you don't want to.
Okay,
It's up to you.
okay.
You're more than welcome to stay if you like.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, application, 1038, is number 3, that's actually been withdrawn as of Monday. I will be working with the owner for how to move forward.
Okay.
So that'll move us on to application number 4, which is 96 Highland Street. This application is to remove and replace the existing windows with 1-over-1 Pella lifestyle windows. Commissioners at the business meeting requested site visit photos be provided, which the site visit photos can be found at the link supplied, but also well, the commissioners also requested that the appointment section of the displayed windows either be brought to the hearing or photos uploaded to the portal by the hearing. Additional product information is needed for the lifestyle windows as they are not on the approved list. HBO conducted a site visit and has determined that though the windows are historic, they are likely salvaged historic replacements. The front facade has been altered and the windows on the rear are rotting past saving. The applicant has provided additional examples of the windows not from the approved list within the vicinity of the subject property, but only supplied one address, which is 971 Highland Avenue. HBO staff looked through the file and the only approval for the windows at that location is from July 10th, 2003 for the Pella Proline and Union windows from when the structure was built. Staff recommends continuation of the application to allow time for a window to be selected from the oldest windows list. Basis for staff recommendation is 3116.11, the standards for alteration, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines on windows and doors.
Can you guys take your name and be sworn in?
Jay Santel.
Eric Glorioso.
Do you guys, agree to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you guys?
Yeah, so I want to make one clarification really quick, Kimberly. I did submit about the lifestyle series being the one in the 971. So that was a pronunciation error on my part. The Proline series is actually the rebrand of the Lifestyle series, which happened in 2017.
I figured that might be the case, which is why I was confused.
Yeah, so when I submitted that as approval, that is 2 doors down, and kind of like we talked at the last meeting, in this location in particular, there are a lot of different materials going on, a lot of different options, I guess, for lack of the better words. And as it looked like when I was reading through that as well, we talked about the staff encouraging about replacement because they were restored or restored, replaced windows. I apologize. And due to the significance of the rot that you guys can see from the additional staff visit pictures, it's pretty extensive. So when we were looking about how we were going to replace this, given the surroundings of the area, of course, I understand and do respect the historical nature of the area and the village. There wasn't necessarily a perfect answer as you kind of look around. We found a bunch of different instances of vinyl, capping, whatever it may be. And when we proposed to replace this with this particular unit, a lot of the same things hold true. I know Architect Series is already approved, and on your guys' approved list, I did submit that as a picture. And then the cladding on this, as we provide in the corner section, it actually is exactly the same from how the cladding meets on the wood window. So all things considered, we did bring a window, we brought a corner section, I had submitted additional information. That's the overall premise of the project.
So I'm pretty, I am sufficiently lost in which models we're talking about versus what's on the list. So let's go ahead and spend that. Right.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with it? I don't have I guess, so let's start with what's on the list and how this differs from that and why. And I guess, is there a reason that they can't be the list, the approved items that are color windows that are currently on the list cannot be used in this application?
Yeah, so to answer your question, the series that is on the approved window list is the Pella Architectural Series. That series has been discontinued for
I don't exact date.
a good period of time.
Yeah.
What has now taken its place that has not been updated on that list would be the Pella Reserve Series. Now, there are differences between the Architect Series and the Reserve Series. For example, the cladding on the corner here, the Architect Series does have that same watershed design. That is on the approved list. However, the Reserve Series does not. It has more of the linear look. So when we say like what's approved, what's not approved, I think that's what brings us here, because there's not an updated version of these windows are approved, this is why. These windows aren't approved, this is why, because there's kind of differing attributes for each that you can make the argument on.
So currently, there are no windows that Pella manufacturers that are on the approved list.
There is, it's the Reserve.
It is also on the list,
Correct.
but it is only approved for case window. So just for accuracy's sake, but we're not entertaining.
Right, so for this style, for a double hung window, this guy.
Yes.
So you were saying, so is there a double hung window made by Pella that is currently made by Pella that is currently on the approved windows list?
Yes, the Reserve is approved in every historical village. Yes, the Reserve is approved. However, on paper, it still labels as the Pella Architect Series. The approved window is the Pella Reserve Architect Series.
What I have on my list is the Architect Series Reserve.
Oh, geez, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not really
Correct. Architect Series was a product that we once had.
Yep,
It's been discontinued and replaced by the Pella Reserve Series.
you've treated that as the same?
Yeah, we do rely on applicants to let us know if things have been updated,
Yeah.
because maintaining the list on top of the current workload is
Oh, yeah.
it's a little much. And I don't recall because we get lots of windows proposed and tossed around and if we've been updated of that.
But I guess what I'm asking is, are we aware that we've approved, we or another commission have approved the reserve windows under the assumption that they are the architectural reserve windows?
So to my knowledge, I don't know the last time a commission has approved a window to be added to the list, much less any other.
But windows have, double hung windows have been installed in the last 5
Yes,
years, or have been approved.
yes.
And the only way for that to have been the case would for them to have been the newer version.
Yes, or if, if it was our assumption that, it was just a change of name and a misunderstanding on our part.
For sure.
All right, I think I'm still.
It's a lot to chew on, I understand.
So what's the open question here? So we're saying that we have to agree that it's on the list?
Or we have to agree it's appropriate.
The lifestyle series, which is what we're talking about today. That's
We're
this
talking
window.
about-
So the lifestyle series is being proposed in lieu of the reserve series.
Yes, sir.
So why not the reserve series?
So there's several reasons for the difference. One, I mean, I'll call it a spade a spade. The price point of reserve, it is the most historical window on the market. It also comes with a very premium price tag. However, when we talk about a wood clad unit, as I know how you guys go about your business, about understanding the historical attributes and the look of the windows and all of those things need to remain true. As you look around in that specific area, you can almost make the argument either way about which one makes sense. From this standpoint, it is the aluminum clad, it is a true wood unit. The way we're proposing to replace these windows are going to be the exact same regardless of which way we go. My major difference between the two is actually what's in the construction of the wood and how the aluminum's applied. Other than that, I actually provided an example of the two photos right next to each other, both window series. It was in my additional update.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Siri wants to talk.
Siri has to get to work.
4:43 p.m.
So it's one more. It is, it's right there. So those are the two completely side by side with each other. That's lifestyle and reserve right next to one another. Obviously, the one on the right has applied brick mold on it, whereas the one on the left has zero exterior trim.
It has applied brick mold, but a smaller profile. These show grids. We're not proposing grids, so that's what makes those look a
I
little.
think what's challenging is, I mean, there was a lot of work that staff to make the list. And, there's some cut sheets, that took a lot of time to try to help us, who, every application being able to make that comparison is really challenging to us.
Sure.
So I think even with the information that's been provided there, I think that's what's challenging for us too as well, right? So the thing that we continue to uphold is the most current, I should say, approved list, right? So I think today we did get clarification that the architectural series needed to be the reserve series.
Mhm.
It advise, even outside of this application, your team being able to sync up with the HPO staff to get that clarified, because that's going to help you guys in the future too as well.
Is there somebody we can contact to do that with? Okay.
So I think that's just from an application perspective. I don't know as far as the information that's available today to be able to make a call that the merits of that proposed lifestyle meets all the things that went into the approval process of identifying what windows and what manufacturers should be on that approved list.
Yeah, they're definitely different.
Yeah, it's right. And I understand. I think it's really tough for us because I think the thing that we all know, we understand is, what does that look? Trying to keep the sash, as thin, trying to keep daylight, unit is as large as possible. Things, all of those things that lead into the aesthetic of it, but for us, I think, I don't know if we could identify that today, to be able to say, hey, that is an acceptable alternate from that perspective.
Sure.
So I think the only thing that we can do is really kind of swing back to the approved list. Purchase costs, things, those kinds of things are kind of outside of our kind of purview.
Sure.
So the only thing that we can really try to point to is the approved windows list. With the information that's being provided today.
If I do have one follow-up question to that. So when we had met the last time, that's actually exactly what I was going to point at. When we had met the last time, I was asked to provide additional information about the window. I was asked to provide a cut section. I was also asked to provide the corner sample I brought here. So what additional information would you need from me?
Yeah, I might want to be just looking at the frames. Seems to be a lot of fluting. Cladding that's outboard of the window, glazing. Is that, you know, see a rounded profile here, and it's kind of the sample as well.
It might be better to show that.
So includes. Or that's specific style.
So this is the lifestyle unit right here. And that is a
And that
cut
is the cut
section
section.
of the same unit.
That's the outside, this is the inside.
I'm noticing that feature about this window is very striated jam. And I'm not certain whether the reserve window would have that same.
Are you talking about the frame, the exterior frame, this portion here?
Correct.
The frames are identical between the reserve and the lifestyle. The only difference is the jamming part right here. Yeah, the jam, that's what, yeah, the interior jam here is different on the reserve product.
To me, that is a visual quality that might make lifestyle windows something that I would hesitate about saying is appropriate if it's going to vary significantly from the window that's on the approved list.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, that seems to be the biggest difference.
Did you provide the photo of the house that's two
I
doors
did.
down that has the same product with a screen?
I did.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that it's adjacent, I'm not sure that that significantly matters in this case. You were speaking about past approvals, and that can really may go back to only the original construction of the house.
Yeah, for the 971.
Right.
The original construction.
So
And he did clarify that the pro line evolved into a lifestyle.
It is the
Yeah.
same, yeah.
so something approved for a new construction building in the past,
Yeah, and
that's quite some time ago.
I don't recall what date the approved windows list kicked into effect, which I'm looking to Sean because his tenure on the commission predates my working here.
No doubt. And
So, I mean, we appreciate the information. It's not the only thing that would justify
Yeah,
another product. So.
so the reason I mentioned that is because other areas, other villages that we have worked in have relied on, okay, what's around the area. For example, there's a community out east that, much like yourselves, do prefer the Reserve series. However, there are pockets in which they allow us to do the lifestyle because of the similarities between the two products. Given everything that's around this area, obviously the varying materials, you can go down that street. One house might have vinyl, another one might have Proline, another one might have fiberglass.
It's an interesting anecdote.
It's a
Something that we-
perspective. Yeah, it's an
Well,
interesting.
So there's kind of two paths. One is the user window that's on the group windows list, assuming that BM1 is, like, we'll give you that as given, just for the sake of the discussion. The second one is to then say, all right, we're gonna approve one that, or we're gonna go down a path of approving the window that's not on the approved windows list, which historically required test cases and like, okay, you get to install one and we get to see 6 months later how it looks, and it gets dragged on and on. And a year later, you made some decision that, yeah, no, we didn't like it, go with what's back on the list in the first place, right? Or I guess we have approved it in some cases, or put that in the test cases, but we're willing to go follow you guys down those steps, but it is gonna take going into detail, like more than we can do today in terms of the mitering of the corners and how is the cladding, done, all of the stuff that none of us here are individually equipped to kind of find on, and in relation to the other committees, because it's not just our list in terms of the commissions. So, you know, I understand that there's a price point difference, but time is money as well. So we're happy to go down either road with you guys, but just want you to know that that's kind of where those two paths take us.
So if I could loop back, as far as what you guys need from me or next steps would be, what would that be? As far as getting you guys to the point of like, let's say we do want to push forward and say, hey, let's really talk about the lifestyle series in greater detail. Aside from the information that I've already given, what is necessary?
That's a great. And what you're up against is the same bureaucracy, right?
Right.
So, you know, Kimberly, what is, I mean, there is no other acceptance process for formally accepting the windows onto the.
So our office doesn't encourage adding just the list just because it is such a extensive process with a variety of commissions that have a variety of tolerances of acceptance of what they view as okay versus not okay. Our guidance is typically to go back to the approved list unless the commission wants to venture down a different path, and then I'm holding the commission for reasons of why we're doing this. And I can, you know, just a couple more arms and get a little bit more detail about some of the work that went into what exactly we were looking at when we did the approved list. I did finally catch my boss about a half an hour before this meeting, and I was given a very quick list that I could not break down fast enough, as well as it's probably on the network. And in the half hour I had before, I didn't have time to go through the network because the files had been moved and reorganized, and there's not even a guarantee that those files are where they think they are, and they might be paper files. So
I guess what I'm getting at, you know, it's Pella here today, it's Anderson yesterday, it's, you know, whatever. the case may be, That this is going to become more of a problem, not less of one. And at some point, we are the unreasonable people, right? I'm not saying that this is the acceptable window. I have no idea, right? What I'm saying is that we have to be able to, whether or not it's on we updated and approved Windows list. I think we as a commission have to figure out how we are going to handle amongst ourselves, and whether that's an acceptance process made up of a subcommittee, whatever. Because they asked a really good question. Well, what do they do, right? And the answer is go back to the approved ordinance. I don't think that's a fair answer. So
I was just kind of thinking that when did the lifestyle window come online?
When did they make the change from Proline to Lifestyle? Oh, boy.
And I guess what I'm trying to understand too is that, you know, in this timeline of the manufacturer's timeline, right? The approved list was identified at a certain moment in time, right? So you guys know your product, we continue to evolve, but there's some things that stay the same. But, you know, in that timeline, you guys being able to communicate to staff, these are, in our timeline of fabrication, these are the things that we do now. It's called this. These are sisters, or whatever they may be, and be able to help that process in that regard. Because there is a little disconnect of something being drawn in the sand, and you guys continue to evolve technology, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'm just trying to understand how, because then it would give us the tools to be able to try to help stay in alignment, you know, with HBO staff, which I think that's what all responsibilities are. But it feels like it's something that needs to happen in terms of discussion.
can I rephrase what you said if I heard it correctly?
Yes, sir.
So I guess if I had to ask it a different way, based on what you just said, is the predecessor for this window that would have existed at the time that the other items on this list would prove those selected, say 2015, would its predecessor have been on this list, or was it on this list?
It was approved in 2003 with the Proline series.
Proline series, what was the predecessor?
That was the predecessor.
And it was more of a rebranding is what it was for Pella because they eliminated 2 series to name this one.
Okay.
And the designer series, which they eliminated, was not on the list, or I don't know of ever being approved down in these territories or these villages. So I'm just saying that this lifestyle was the Proline and it's just rebranded.
So maybe there's a methodology there about, we're not trying to decide what all the components are, but that this is the same material as that, right? This one. So we do need to know what those checkpoints are to be able to check them, but it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what has to go in. Like, does it need to be an inch and 5/8 versus the inch and whatever? The point is it has to be the same.
And if may I add one last thing and then I'm done speaking and you guys can get to the rest of them. I'm happy you guys referred to, this window list not being just yours. There's other, villages that you guys work in and work with. I'm also happy to give you a list of properties of places that have approved the lifestyle because I know, for example, it's an Italian village. I know, for example, it exists in Victorian village. And I think the only one that I know for sure it probably isn't in is German village. Right. So it's to your point, Reed, it's a little challenging to figure out exactly what route we're going to go until we go to the approval, because sometimes it may get approved, sometimes it may not get approved. So that would be great if we could I'm happy to work with you guys on how that goes about. But if we could figure out a way to dissect what's most important to you guys and find a consistent path, that would be great.
That would be a piece of information. There are other examples of these windows having.
I really don't apply in other villages though, because we're reviewing.
No.
Yeah, if there's been other COAs issued
Yeah, for
for
Victorian.
Victorian village that establishes a kind of or point to some precedent that this commission has ruled on in the past that's providing us more clarity, then I would be interested to hear it, but I'm not sure if that necessarily will.
It's also kind of dependent on there was.
I mean, a 2003 new construction.
That's it.
This is the point. This is an example of.
Well, and that goes back to the agreement, not the
Right. There are a bunch of windows in that, including structures. That's a different situation coming from this.
And I recognize that we don't typically work together areas. For example, but if we're all using the same rules, I think we should all be aligned. We should, I think, it's that process of updating appropriately without dedicating the integrity of the initial process, but keeping in line with advancements, product lines, I think.
If this is the only property that you have, can say it's, this is an example of this window being approved with appropriateness. It also might speak to the fact that it's only one property that has these windows that has any history of it. So, well, I would steer more towards the approved, the appropriate.
Well, and we shouldn't be in a position of not the right place, but I'm saying, holding hostage a single applicant based on Brian which can, I don't know, but I'm not sure that I like how the approach is for that.
I mean, we're not really.
Right, that's what I said, like the phrase.
There's not on the list.
Right.
They can choose from.
But they're looking to do something different, like, is there a way for us to be flexible and just test things or anything that we say, that's step one. We're not gonna make a process here today, so I think we have to figure out that forward and figure some clear direction as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a question, do you want to continue the application so that you can provide more information to us, such as more properties that have these windows installed in Victorian Village? Or would you rather maybe want to focus working towards approval from the approved windows?
So twofold. One, the homeowners are sitting behind me. Kenneth and Anna are over there. So I would kind of defer that question back to them. The second part, I'm happy to provide you a list of lifestyle approved with COAs in the villages. I'm happy to provide you that list. It is not just one.
Okay.
There are several. So In Victorian Village, I do know that there are more than just one. Yes.
Part of that. Charity. I think that if we had the ability to find and give you clarity of this series and what this series is stated as or branded as, that may help future, because we're gonna have this problem again. And so it'd be a great time to be able to, I want to say, refresh the naming convention that's shown as a blue window as part of it. So
That's what I was just gonna say. How do we get the list updated with the appropriate names of the product? That's, you know, and then can we,
You have to reach out to us, let us know if there's been changes, we'll want to see it, some of the kind of product sheets that you've already submitted. I know we've updated one of the lists a couple of years ago, because I don't think it was the shingles list, that they discontinued something, and that was all another coworker that had done that updating, and then just so. But hey, this has been revised, but happy to look into it, happy to work with you. Just know we do answer all emails in the order that they're received.
I understand.
So just be kind of, that might be slightly independent from this application.
Right.
I'm a little slower to respond. I'm not ignoring you. It's just balancing.
understandable. I mean, we have a commercial team and I know they've done plenty of these also for several projects. So, but
Before I update the list, I have to check in with the historic preservation officer himself. And he's currently gone on vacation for 2.5 weeks. So nothing is going to get done quickly. So just so you're aware of what the timeline might look like of that.
So it seems like we're heading towards a continuance, but it seems like there is a path with some of this clarification. I'm just happy that we're kind of talking to one perspective, so the insight is extremely valuable from that perspective. So we will come up working through COVID, there were certain manufacturers that were cutting in. We had lead time issues, we had things.
yes,
That kind of dialogue, I think is really healthy. You know, I mean, the last thing we want to do is hold up, you know, improvements from that perspective, but you know, appreciate you guys being and understanding what we have to do to as well on this side.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm definitely happy to work with you guys on that.
Awesome. So is there a motion to continue to allow those things to continue to happen?
Motion to continue application COA 25-00649. Oh, excuse me. Wrong one. I voted. COA 25-00520.
61. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Really.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Here are first continued of night. Not quite the extended deadline because we've got an extra week this month. So the deadline to submit updated materials to be on the August agenda is the 17th.
Okay.
It shouldn't take a big 5 business days to get the minutes out, but if you're more on top of things than me, you are more than welcome. For yourself, since it's continued, you'll update it, upload it to the existing application, and considering we're still working through our system of the portal, please email me when you do upload additional documents because it will.
Yeah, we'll go back and forth on that. Maybe by that time, we can get some ideas on what you guys would want me to submit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, application number 5 is 1187 High Street. This application is to add a new marquee to the face of the Bellevue Theater Building and install a 24-foot by 6'5" structural framing for the marquee. LED illuminated. 3 levels. There's some going to the study for windows. There's going to be accent lighting and we can do this. Understanding the video will be coming for instant important for the film tiles and combinations. Really, the rental price and the film market is a couple of different options that we should look at today. The marquee you can face the building, and we're going to break from the following the building. The cover above and below gap of building, you can see openings. All surfaces in the concrete alcove with hollow center door where applicable for placed in the front if necessary. Commissioners at the business meeting noted they have to discuss how the guidelines talk about representing central history and appropriate materials for the hearing. They requested HBO staff testify to see if the photos were available and it requested confirmation of what would be out there. The commission previously approved the signage with recessed lighting, and the commission needs to discuss if the typical lights are appropriate. The short north design guidelines for some with caution against light spillage and uncovered bulbs. Staff recommends approval of the application with the condition that the lighting is revised to follow code and guidelines. The basis for staff approval is City Code 3116.11, standings for alteration, as well as the short north design guidelines for lighting and the short north design guidelines for signage.
Can you guys state your name?
Tom Mahoney.
Mark Suplak.
Logan Dutz.
DJ, and then you tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes. We can, belabor this or sort of go through it quick. If I was articulating anything right, this project's been around. Sean, it sounded like you've been on the commission for a while. Maybe you've seen it. The rest of you, perhaps not. I'll say the same is true on our side. We're new to the mix as well. So there's history on the project, history on the building, but history on the project as well. We just want to level set on that. We're new to the mix. We're honoring a lot of the good work that came before us, be it the alignment relative to the commission and or the designers who came before us. Ultimately, what you have in your packet is actually the day-night package in particular is the previously approved package that occurred, I think, prior to pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic stymied just about everything, inclusive of a business. But it's sort of sat dormant, all good intentions by everybody involved. It's sat dormant while the Short North Theater, which is a nonprofit, got their arms wrapped around certain things, capital campaign in particular. So some of that is gaining a little traction now. There is a grant in the mix, thus we're back with all of that. So we're trying to honor all the work that's come before us, honor all the alignment that's come before us in large part. We collectively, recognize, well, if we have to come back since the shelf life of our previous COA didn't persist, if we have to come back, we did recognize there's a little bit of a shortcoming and on the underbelly of the marquee and a grand opportunity to do something, a little bit better. And we actually think it's more in line with wealth of precedent, be it the original marquee that we know is in the mix here, be it even the Short North. There is sort of Tivoli lighting on certain elements in the Short North, or even I'm going to say marquees around town that are of a comparable era, be it Ohio Theater, be it Lincoln, be it the Drexel out in Bexley, right? And the list carries on. So we took that opportunity. We're open to discussion on it. There's still work to do around some of that stuff if we're reasonably amenable to some of those things. But that's kind of the submission here. I do, relative to all that, obviously you have a sense for what's in the package, in large part, aside from the sort of options for the underbelly adjustments. I will say our ideal outcome here today is some measure of a vote, albeit, recognizing, albeit with potential conditions. The Short North stage and the capital campaign is getting traction. It would be a lovely amenity for all of us. Part of that is getting traction is now fast tracking, the marquee up in place and staying the course. So ideally, that's where we hope we're angling. We do, Kimberly, thank you for the guidance on specifically the open bulb. The Tivoli lights, open bulb, you see a little bit of that on the original on the right side there.
We also have, I'm going to say, we have adjustments we think we could make, which could still recess that entire central plane, not to the perimeter like you're staring at now, but recess the entirety of the central plane up some, so it still has the effect of the underbelly of a marquee that we know at Ohio Theater. You pick it, right? There are adjustments we could make to get to what we hope would be a really agreeable state whereby we sort of both get, you know what I mean, improved underbelly and, oh, by the way, make sure we're shielding it effectively. That said, if we articulated anything just to land it as a sort of aha, the arches, of course, have Tivoli exposed light bulb Tivoli on all of them, the entire stretch of the road. So, there's a little bit of how do we do it as well, but do it appropriate in agreeable ways.
Oh, sorry. Is there a certain option that you feel like is the option or is the solution? Since you've gained feedback, obviously from staff, it feels like you're articulating where this may head to resolve some of staff's comments. Is there an option that we should be focused on that would allow us to kind of narrow in?
We're saying as far as the patterning, obviously, if we're potentially going to recess the sort of central belly and leave, I'm going to say, a curb that allows us some measure of light shed protection, it would obviously not include any of the scenarios where there is perimeter lighting. Although, again, the perimeter lighting is what is actually in the original marquee, right? So that is the closest to honoring the historic nature of the marquee. As far as pattern, we'd be amenable to, I don't know that we collectively have a preference for the pattern on the internal belly as much as, we'd prefer the option to head that direction, and open to working with staff as a condition to land that if that becomes agreeable.
I think this might. So, I mean, first, I don't have an issue with the perimeter lights. I do think that is, I mean, it's historic, right? So then it becomes, okay, so let's set that aside for a moment, say the perimeter, we're okay with. I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to move forward here. The question then becomes more about, I think, where the concerned staff has and making sure that, like, this isn't the surface of the sun when you go under it, right?
Mhm.
And that it's not also looking like a carnival, right? So I think a piece of information that we don't have here today, but that might be helpful to consider would be, from the original plans where it was just recessed lighting, what's the lumen measurement under that canopy versus the other option, right? Because we're looking at different numbers of bulbs, and I don't know what wattages and those types of things. So I don't know if it's a photometric study or whatever, right? But just give us some sense of what we're comparing to, so that, yeah, the recessed lighting, this is going to be no brighter than that it's going to be anyway, right? And now you're talking about, okay, well, let's recess the inner lights up into the canopy by 6 inches or whatever, so that it's not, as you drive by, like just screaming out at you and coming out the side. And I think there's a good image of that in the example from, let's find it real quickly. I'm gonna say it was the music box. It's like the Iron Theater's recessed too.
Mhm. Yeah.
The music box, well, I think both of them have. The music box, we can see those, they've got. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's page 23 of the document, page 19 of the PDF. Well, yes, I guess it's the Warner figure that they show here as well. That one is less recessed. But yeah, so the far left one, it's hard to tell with reflection.
Yeah, there's a edge curb around it.
Yeah. So I think there's, I mean, I think certainly the outer perimeter could be below into, consistent with what it was historically. But I think that, yeah, anything else probably should be recessed up in it. And then again, if it's not any brighter than the recessed lights would have been, I don't know that we really lose
much. I don't know. And I'll add to that, I don't think it's just the brightness, I think it's the color temp, the color tone here. I look at, the Warner, the how blue that light is, if that's a 5,000 or 6,000, whatever that
Right.
is. It's a lot as opposed to the one.
You get a free tan.
So I think I think that will help.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking 3,000, what was that?
Mhm.
They need mimicking the best.
Yeah, yeah.
On the question of Lights Village, would you be willing to pursue a photometric study that shows light will not go past property boundaries?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's something fairly.
Yeah, I mean, relative to the nature of the conversation, I think we fully expected that would be part of the works with staff, right? And
those observations. And once you get to pattern, I mean.
Uh,
Right, intensity and color, is one looking about that.
I do want to understand the panel as well. Really, there's not really much detail on that. I just painted metal panel color TBD. I didn't want to say what's above this and how does that reflect and this kind of thing. I mean, that's going to matter for the photometric side. But a mirror there, you're going to have very different.
But yeah, I think we expected, a painted metal, right, DMI kind of panel in there. Obviously, what you're staring at is the original, I'm gonna say the original underbelly plus the edge Tivoli, right? And the original, again, the original design was approved, right? So you see a blend of the pressed stamped aluminum, decorative stamped aluminum, and then white inlays. So there's a little bit of a checkerboard. It'll be a solid, ours, whatever it is, if we're doing it with the Tivoli, if the Tivoli's dancing, we're gonna take that layer out. So it'll be a lot more of a clean surface, right? And an appropriate sort of rhythm that works with the structure. I think we have, Kimberly, there is a section of this at some point in the drawings that might feel like it's earlier. Oh, okay. Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. I thought there was one in
Yeah,
here.
there's, oh yeah, I do remember. Yeah, there's the day-night package of drawings in there.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, keep going a little bit more. There you go. So what you see here, if we're just looking, I'm gonna say, find the yellow pointed arrow saying 10 foot to the grade, follow that up. That ends at, let's call it the ceiling, right? And this is, you're staring at the original design, but obviously that ends at the ceiling. That ceiling is basically a trade-in, metal, right? And you see the recessed cans. So that can lift there's some space up to the structure. We have some options to work with that can make that work. And basically then the Tivoli will be on the bottom side, potentially on the bottom side of it.
Piece of aluminum is painted. It's fine. It's just-
Yeah.
Like the balance.
Yep. Yeah.
Provide that information. Balance that out.
I think as long as it's with the photo, that's what that is.
So what's today is. The only thing we can do is.
I'm assuming commissioners want to see updated materials and kind of help expand that a little bit. That's okay with me, as long as that's okay with our applicants.
Do we not think, I guess I'm going to, there's a photometric, there's condition of specifically a warm color temperature. There is, a submission of color material of the bottom face. And I guess relative, I caught those three things, and I'm asking because it'd be our preference, could we vote with those conditions?
think we need to, I know that this is a chicken and the egg thing, right, about whether you get a new package from day and night, but like, we're gonna need the new section drawing for a final approval anyway.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how it gets there.
Yeah.
So whether it's a subcommittee or whether it's staff or whether it's us, we can be open. We've got to get to that final.
Could we, let me ask it differently. So the only change here is essentially the bottom. Is it possible to basically say the bottom comes back?
You see where I'm going? Could we approve the rest of it in order to start, if we're satisfied with the rest of it and the rest of the package, which is a completed package, and then parse off the bottom to say the bottom has to come back for.
Materials, and we have a form and business meeting, and everybody's happy with what's submitted. Theoretically, at the business meeting, we can move it to staff approval. I'm offering that as a theoretical with we don't always have quorum at the business meeting, and this is our full commission, So quorum will be 3, which that's not always a comfortable number for the commissioners to approve such a large project.
What do we think about a subcommittee potentially for this? I think the problem is like too many of us probably weigh in. I guess. Let's stick it all.
It's true. That just takes it out of this.
Right.
Periodic format.
Yeah,
We could do that.
I mean, it's not always faster, especially if you put five.
It's
Probably your best shot.
Yeah. But everybody wants to see it, it's coming back. I'm not having all y'all, I don't want them having a tickets chase.
You understand that output.
Sounds like it stays together.
Yeah, stay together.
Got it. Okay. It was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. Yeah.
Or,
I'll move it to staff.
we would move it to staff.
So contingent on new drawings within 2 weeks. And a quorum at the meeting.
Well, no.
In the town.
Yeah, within a week and a day,
A week and a day.
because
So.
we don't have an extended deadline because we have an extra week, so it's.
Oh, so you only get.
Yeah, so it's an extra day that you get from the extended deadline, which I know doesn't seem like a whole lot.
You gotta have a photometric study in your back pocket in a week.
Probably. Yeah, I think we can get it that quick. Yeah.
I like this guy.
Certainly the photometric shows that we should not show any light spillage to adjacent properties.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if the same study said that the lighting was based on a 2,700 to 3,000 Kelvin.
Mhm.
And that would solve 2 of the things we're looking for clarification.
I don't know if the original packet that was approved actually had any wattage or anything, but that would be what you're trying to hit.
Mhm.
Right, use that as your baseline and say this will be no more than. More.
Yeah.
I would move to continue COA 2500-649 for 11/8
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thanks.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Application number 6 is 1042 Highland Street. This application is to construct a 22 foot by 8 inch by 24 foot 8 inch garage for 2 options. Option A, the garage would be approximately 15 inches high, slate lines and 12 shingles, and English grading shed roof. Windows would be the gel room sight line wood fixed windows. Siding would be the board and batten vinyl. Garage would have a sconce lighting next to the garage and one beside the person door. The garage door would have craftsman style door. Garage would be approximately 12 feet 8 inches tall for option B. the front facing gable roof to have the same shingle, as well as the same siding proposed. Garage would also have the same lighting, with sconce lighting next to the garage doors, and besides the facing door. Garage would be that house style, and then replacing the front and actually shifting style. The commissioners at the business meeting requested to know why a single garage door would be proposed instead of two. The commission typically recommends two single garage doors. Please confirm the depth back from the alley as well as the width of the existing alley. And if there are any other factors for why a single door is proposed. The applicant noted that all the garages in the alley have a single door as opposed to two, which is why we designed the garages as they did. They also noted it was for budget purposes, and they provided revised drawings with two single garage doors if they're required. That should be in the packet. Dimensions for the garage should be marked on the final site plans. The commission requests photos of the site, including photos from the alley, which have been provided. And staff will need to check if the existing fence was approved, which I did. I checked the file, and there's no documentation on the file regarding the fence approval from 1036 Colvin to the south. The fence appears to have been erected between June 2014 and July 2015 from the photos on Google Street View, and the commission will need to discuss if that fence style is appropriate. And it is typical for gooseneck lights to be over each of the garage doors. HBO staff does not support the use of vinyl siding. Wood, party wall, or will be supported. Staff recommends continuation of the application to allow for within stand vinyl sign. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116.12, the standards for the construction, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines on the construction.
Can you state your name? Yep.
And Dmitry Novak?
Tanya Axel? Yes.
Yeah, so we submitted two options. First option would be I don't know if you're able, or you probably saw the plans, more of a sloped roof at 15 feet at the peak. I think that's what you guys require at the max height. And yeah, right there.
This is
With a window over the garage door. We wanted to do a single garage door. It's for purposes, one of the reasons actually that Tanya just mentioned to me as well is for getting into the garage and out of the garage as well. With it being two single garage doors, it'll make it much more difficult driving in and out.
It looks ugly. I'm sorry. It really does look ugly. And I look at it and I haven't seen anybody has the double doors. And we really would like to have single door there if it's possible.
The exterior material, I guess reason being we're trying to stick to a budget. Vinyl is our best option. Looking at from the road, you can't really tell driving by if that's Boral or Hardy, unless you're an expert. But to a point, going off the street, driving down the alley, there's not much of a difference. But I guess it's what you guys decide.
Talk a little bit, just the materialities. We talked about materials. I think we've heard that between A and B. That you want us to give you feedback on both A and B, or is there a certain
Feedback on A. Yeah, feedback on A.
Just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
There's some revisions that are probably going to take shape.
Mhm.
And so we just want to make sure that we're giving you the right feedback that would help you with that.
I'm sorry, this is the one I really want. And it will go great with the house. It matches the style of it, matches the house as well.
Reason being why we submitted B was there's not a garage with a slanted roof in the alley currently. So we're just to make things, I guess.
Forget the B, let's concentrate it on the A, please. Yeah.
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 No.
So, maybe this. I mean, understand economics and such, but materiality would be. So that material would be, you know, either hardened or I'm gonna say a cementitious product. Say that. A cementitious product for, you know, whether that's. Right, that's right. Yeah, or masonry, right, so, unfortunately, siding, as far as vinyl siding, it's just really not within the district, from that perspective in terms of the guidelines, and, I should say an acceptable material, period.
That's fine.
There are some situations where, you know, there's some products or some buildings or structures were originally vinyl that have come back and had modifications to them that were revised, I want to say revised siding conditions that went back as vinyl, but no new structures, from that perspective have been just vinyl.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, I think maybe the next one, maybe we'll talk a little bit about issues, maybe the merits, or any concerns related to just option A. So, Tim, can we go back to A and just talk about maybe A, I want to just.
So there's two versions of both, right? There's one with a single door and one with a double door. Right.
Yeah. This is B we're looking at right there. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
right there.
Yeah, let's concentrate on this one, please. This is the one I really wanted there. I mean, this again matches the house. The reason I bought the historical house, because I like the historical house and I want to keep the same way. This is really matching the house. I understand you guys don't like the vinyl. That's fine. We'll get rid of the vinyl. We'll put whatever you guys approve.
I don't think it's
I understand. Sorry about my English. It's not as sophisticated as you may want to hear it, but yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
The house itself, no, we don't.
You should. B. No, but 1042 Highland. I think 1870.
Architectural style. Right.
That's not it.
That's not it.
Oh, this is it.
Oh, that right there, okay.
It's a nice house.
It is.
Very nice house. I mean,
As far as architectural styles go, I mean, what you're proposing is what I would call mid-century modern type design. Just kind of shed shape with kind of the window that you propose. I mean, so, you know, I don't know that it's complementing the house so much as it being just, there's trying to be too similar to it and then not hitting it, right? And then it just being weird because it's not close enough to match it. And then there's the option where you just don't even try like you're proposing, and then it's like, it can be complementary. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it is, I'm not sure that I would say that it's consistent with the architecture of the house.
Let's say.
that's it. That's the one. That's cute little house there. No. That one.
The brick one. So it does kind of have already a slight modern look to it with it being very old.
No.
Existing house has a hip roof. We're seeing a shed roof.
I mean, we just changed the shingles. It took us 2 months to get an approval for the shingles. So not the green one. Yeah, right there. That's the one.
So to
I've never seen one
to
in the area.
something that's not appropriate for the neighborhood.
That's an excellent way of thinking, right? I think when we're saying contextually, it wouldn't, a single shed roof wouldn't be appropriate contextually.
And it's not as if the house has a shed roof.
That's right.
The house
It
has
doesn't
more
have to,
to
that's
this.
guidelines to follow.
It's talking about how the roof slopes. One way without.
I think that your other option is more appropriate.
The other option is it's similar, the same kind of garage that you see everywhere. I mean, we're talking about, those are the kind of garage they're just 20, 30, 40 years ago they done it. This house is 1870. And a little bit of imperfections makes it perfect sometimes. And that looks gorgeous. That's your typical garage.
What could happen? Some complementary to the existing home and a little bit of difference from a traditional garage that is actually within that. That could be a way to marry the two together.
Can we show an example of a hip roof?
Can you pull up an alley or an alley with, find a garage with a hip roof?
Well, are we looking for one with a port?
Yeah, we hopefully.
And the reason I'm suggesting that only because of the existing home has a.
So, while you're looking for that, in the alley, there is currently constructed a new garage that is gonna look similar to hers. And has the board and batten, but I don't know if it's vinyl or not.
Yeah, it would be a cementitious product.
But I guess to add on to that, I think it would complement the garages within the alley if we even went the shed roof style.
I think we're open to materiality. So for instance, if you shift to a board and batten, a cementitious, if you shift to, you know, let's say a 4-inch or a 5-inch reveal over horizontal, you know, I think all of those things would be considered appropriate within the guidelines. I think the guidelines kind of speak to that. So make a profile that's your exposed board would be a 4-inch or a 5-inch, you know.
Right.
The center of
Okay, that was not what that was looking for. Like, I'm just from all the way
Yeah.
down, like, it's my life.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Well, it keeps popping up. This is the fun of having rooms and things not really like preset or done. That's kind of much to this.
Yeah, and verify.
Oh.
Okay.
Traffic lights.
We're gonna see.
So I mean, we can use the house as the example of a hip roof. I have, right. So the hip roof is where you've got.
Let me, if you don't mind, I'll look at it that he said that there is a.
This is a hip roof.
Not very heavy. Well. Come on, I mean, it's
This is one example.
Yeah.
It's, it's not the different siding, different whatever, but that's what the roof is.
Well,
Just like your house.
but it's a taste, and the one I look at it, the one that we showed it to you, it looks very nice. I mean, this is your typical roof. If you're talking about just the roof the way it needs to look, maybe we should try this one, make it look a little better looking in the alley.
Understandable, but I think what happens is the guidelines are written based upon maintaining the context, right? So I think the only thing that we have to do, we can't challenge the guidelines or challenge what's appropriate from us.
So-
With something that is new, that creates new content. Right? I think what we're doing is evaluating and trying to maintain the current content and what the guidelines say.
So-
it's a little bit different kind of perspective.
So at this point, I don't have any other choice but make a hip roof. That's what you call it? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That is fine. We'll do the hip ones.
So you want this kind or you want the hip roof?
Hip one. It doesn't matter since I don't get what I want.
Okay. So let's go with the gable.
Okay,
It's called the
yeah.
gable roof, so we'll go.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
And so.
And I'm gonna show this to my wife and I'm gonna tell them that you guys are the one make me do it. I know. That's all.
Going off that drawing, can we raise that gable to 15 feet? I think currently we're at 12 feet, just to give it a little bit more height.
Completely. I feel, I mean, if I remember correctly, and I feel like the appropriateness of slope in the historic areas is what sets the precedent versus what's in the zoning code for 15 feet as garage structures.
Right.
I think bigger taller is more appropriate.
That's right.
More
So
appropriate, okay.
we agree.
Okay, super. Because we max it out at 15 feet. We can't go higher than 15 feet, right?
That's not true.
That's what I got in the email from one of, as a guideline, I guess, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's the zoning.
Zoning's a different-
zoning, oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's the email I got from zoning, that 15 feet is the highest we could go.
We've gone higher.
It's just if you go taller than 15 feet, we have to recommend a variance for it, but you have to work with building and zoning to set the variance, probably go through their process, as well as get on their schedule, which is a 3-month lead time.
No, yeah, we won't go that route. We'll
Yes.
just,
I'm gonna add the caveat of having, like, checked everything with building and zoning, so we're not running into any variances or surprises along the way with that.
That's all right. It's, yeah, I'm a little.
But to be fair, the house is not incredibly tall.
That's right, that's right.
Although it does have a second.
Yeah. So if we were to say that what you're trying to do is you're trying to match the pitch of the current home, is that where?
no, I would just try and
Yeah,
just a little
more
more
space.
space, and I
Yes.
think Tanya's gonna be a little happier with a higher pitched roof versus
That's right.
something that's lower, so,
Talk a little bit about the. This.
I think so.
Please just try to make me feel good. One door.
One door, two doors.
Every alley given.
Every
They're
garage.
right.
Yeah.
We got it.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
thank
about
you.
that.
Look at some more, there's a cover product sheet of the project towards the end. But in terms of if that would be appropriate
Well,
or.
the person is the one. I did.
This would be on the back of the garage.
But this, I don't want to jump around. on
Yeah.
things, But, so as far as the person goes, this doors don't fit within the guidelines. These are more craftsman.
Okay.
Frankly, it'd almost be better if you look this up over 180 degrees, and we would probably say it's fine. But this is just a kind of a wrong format. The guidelines have a lot of clear direction, fortunately, with
That's fine.
doors. So,
That's fine. The wood kind.
Are we okay doing a double door? So she wants a double door.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do a double door. Okay.
like a barn door, look, yeah.
might be better off without barn doors, like I could, a lot of houses in the alley that have.
That's right. Yeah,
The diagonals. Hard to get.
and it's cheaper. You could do it at home.
Well, fair enough. Yeah, but yeah, either have it just follow the guidelines or suggest something.
We're not gonna recreate because our neighbor across from, they have the barn door. And they went through the same thing that we're going through here too. So, I mean, similar to theirs could be perfect. No,
Great, they didn't have a garage door submitted.
yeah, you did. Okay.
It was, let's see, it's from Deluxe Doors. There wasn't a cut sheet in it. Can you recheck that again?
Double check, because I'm starting, and I was kind of that when I PDF everything, stuff gets left out. I'm going to blame the PDF.
And you can use that for 5 more years.
I thought pretty, it was pretty primitive. Because they did update some of our programs that has.
But the lighting fixture,
I think it's the picture.
the fixture.
Yeah.
Difference, right?
But this is the door detail. You can't really right now, but you can't really tell on the door itself, but maybe you could have a good idea what we're gonna be using. Black.
So nothing,
Coach like for the movement.
Well, the fixtures is same thing as what we have it at the house. Around the house, same kind of fixture, and that's the reason we choose them.
Yeah, we just gotta update that. The fixture we're gonna use is the one that we provided for you guys, the picture, yeah, that's the actual fixture.
So yeah, two coaches, but that'd be coach lights, not a light over the top of it.
Yeah, it'll be coach lights, yeah, we'll have to. Gotta adjust.
Person door as well.
Be probably single coach light on one side. Other.
Lighting, we talked about which option. Anything else that somebody be missing?
Shingles were only approved. Shingles wasn't perfect.
We approved it, single plus.
Same shingles that we used for the house, which you guys approved it to be done at month ago, so we're using the same shingles, yeah.
With the new style, we're not gonna do a window at this point.
There won't be any window
Yeah,
for
there
the
won't be
new
any
style,
window
because
for
you
op-
guys killed it. There was a window on top of it. Okay, no windows.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
We haven't talked about the fence. What are we gonna do with the fence? Can we go ahead and build it or? Right there, that's the fence that we are currently.
That's your fence.
No, that's our neighbor's fence. We're just gonna make sure it matches to theirs. Oh, I love them.
Feel like what we think. It's a certain size boards, I don't think.
But I think it's an apartment and I think it's not a historical apartment. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more for the.
It's like the dog ears and then the no shadow lines.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the guidelines specifically say about it.
Different village is more prescriptive.
You cannot have a dog here.
And the shadow boxes. It's all out.
Yeah, we don't allow staff level, shadow box fence. It would have to be.
What is a shadow?
We typically encourage the board. That's not to say the commission hasn't included some taller, metal fences. And then the guidelines do say, I think like a metal fence in the front yard or a picket. But I don't think like the back privacy fences have as much. So we've been working on standards for site improvements, which would be kind of the precedent of the area, which the only problem with this is it was not approved. Which is why.
Maybe because it's not a historical building. It doesn't matter? No, okay. Don't tell them we brought it over here, so. I just moved there 6-7 months ago. But I mean, in picture, it doesn't look good. But personally, when you look at it, it's one of the best fences around there. As I said, not approved. Yeah.
Part of the application.
Huh.
You were to. That was. I think that. Try to evaluate the horizontal solution. Context. The random is something.
Okay, so more something more consistent, just one size. One size and horizontal would pass, or you guys would want it to be vertical?
So, and I guess what I'm saying is that, I don't know, I'm trying to stay back in alignment of horizontal fences that we consistently approved. Yes. And if they're pushing for horizontal, I'm gonna be consistent with the ones that we've approved.
That's fine.
So, or you would do a vertical solution, and it just totally different.
Yeah, no, we could definitely draw one up with, consistent horizontal sizes for the boards.
That's fine. I just want to make consistency. Yeah, I remember there was a moment years ago where horizontal fences were, you know, like it was like horizontal fences were coming a lot. And then a variety of ways from that perspective. So it's hard to point to one. The only thing I can do is say, hey, you can lean on Kimberly and say, hey, here are horizontal fences that we've approved to be consistent from that perspective. But I don't think it had random board sizes. I just don't remember. You know, it's very long. So I guess you could work with HPO staff and say, hey, what horizontal fences potentially have been approved?
Yeah.
We'll give you some design.
Yeah.
But this is a quick turnaround.
I mean, here's what I'd say about that. If you're not, if you're gonna go, you're not gonna go with this style of horizontal, then I think you need to go vertical. Yeah, I don't think doing a horizontal or even spacing against this next to it makes any sense. Yeah. So either this as they, or vertical.
Would the commission be willing to evaluate options?
That's what I was.
Because I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, that.
I don't know, like, I'm really confused.
Yes, yes, I would agree, it's confusing, so.
So can we do this?
Give us a few options. After you've made the changes, but probably something that looks like this, probably something that's all the same horizontal, and then probably something vertical.
Okay.
Can we, okay,
Or photos.
photos, okay, and then, can we get, I guess photos of fences that you guys have approved previously?
They don't have it, so we could really need to make it.
But it's probably just gonna.
You're better off just taking pictures of.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, okay. Gotcha, okay.
Well, in the area, most of them is like a vertical ones, you know, the wood and coming apart kind of, yeah.
You like that one?
Oh, hell no.
No, yeah, see, she wants to, or not.
No, I don't want to put them in trouble now. This is my first time dealing with you guys and putting my neighbors in.
I'm not.
Okay, good.
Add my sense of confusion to this. When you really study this fence, it's not as random as it seems. There's a clear pattern to it. I would argue that if you picked, wanted to pick the larger size and stuck with the same rhythm, or vice versa, go with the smaller. I think they could.
You think that's what I. Because the two thin boards make up one big board.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
All right.
You could pick
Yeah.
this or pick
Yeah,
this
confusing the issue, but.
and do it consistently, and it's going to.
Pick the skinny one.
Do you follow what he said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I think that's a good idea.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll do the skinny one.
So, yeah,
She wants the
those
skinny.
thin ones, yeah, that's it.
Well, I don't know that they would like, so.
Yes, I want to get approval.
What we think is consistent.
Not use the word like.
Yeah, I know, like, I used the word like. It rubbed off.
You guys gotta put a poster here, don't use the word like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going with the car garage door, am I correct? And then we don't want the vinyls. Okay, and then we change the roof with the hip. We definitely change everything about it. So can we start the construction? Yes,
We're gonna do the gable, we're doing the gable, yeah, we're doing this one, Tanya. Yeah, which is, it's called the gable,
Okay.
forget about the hip.
yeah, pretty much.
Is there a motion to continue?
So, yeah, I guess question, can we, I guess, yeah, where do we stand today? So she wants to get it built as soon as possible. Can we get approval for submitting permits and then we provide the additional materials? Or can we maybe remove the fence for now completely if that's gonna hold back the project? And we don't do a fence and then we'll submit separately for just doing a fence around the garage.
Understand. So I think it's clear that we could do A and a B. The concern is that does the drawings currently reflect enough that would allow you to be able to build it without standing? Right, so.
I sense some hesitation.
So, of course,
Yes, are you squirming?
yeah, well, I mean, the garage door detail is out there still, the main door detail is still out there. We're talking about still maybe changing the height of the gable. Of the ridge, so I think there's too many moving pieces to just compensate or
Maybe similar to the last application, that if resubmitted materials are, on the agenda, we have form of this meeting.
Yeah, that's a nice compromise potentially.
Because, yeah, I could have that over to you really quickly. We'll get the gable adjusted, we'll get the new man door style, and then what else to do in the garage door, more detail in the garage door.
COA is not.
It is not, but you need this, you
need it, right.
say that in order to apply for the permit.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking if we're cautiously optimistic about moving stuff to staff approval at the business meeting, I might split this at a staff level. And if we want to continue it as a whole, and then I can administratively pull out the garage and then the fence, if we need to talk a little bit more about the fence. Just so fence component isn't holding us up, and then y'all don't need to do any additional motions on splitting. I can just do it. So they submit updated materials. When I put the agenda together, I do a COA number, the 25000646A. Hey, this is the garage option. And then I do the COA 25000646B with just the fence options. That way, if the commission at the business meeting said, hey, garage looks fantastic, we'd like to approve this, we don't need to discuss it anymore. And we have a form at the business meeting, they can move that to staff approval. And then if they're like, we need to discuss the fences more, I want, say Tim wasn't here. I want his opinion on that because he's a landscape architect. We could have that piece come to the hearing and have a further discussion. So it's not the garage is okay, but we need further discussion.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Can do that administratively,
Okay, so it may save you a couple of weeks on the garage.
but no guarantee.
No guarantee.
Does that help? Does that seem like that's the right process to go?
Yeah, so if I understood you correctly, let's say everything goes great, we would have an answer within 2 weeks.
So you'd have to submit within a week.
Yeah, we'll submit it. Okay.
And then we'll have our next business, our next hearing.
Which is happening this month or?
July.
Wednesday of the month.
So, yeah, so July 30th, at which point, if we have enough of the commissioners that show up to the business meeting, which we usually. I know, right, in the middle of.
No vacations on those
Yeah,
days.
exactly. This is the problem. Then at that point, we could say, yeah, we're good with it and move it to staff approval, which means Kimberly could then approve it for you and keep that piece moving forward. Whether or not the fence piece, we will break the fence.
Yeah,
apart.
yeah, I
It may
got you.
go, it may
Yeah,
not. We may
yeah.
Split them up so that you don't have to come back for the next year for the garage and wait for that whole thing to. That, or wait for another 2 weeks for that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue application COA 25000646, 1042 Highland Street.
Awesome. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Well, we have one right.
Thank you for coming. That would have been very complicated. It would have been very difficult for me to explain this to you.
Well, it's really, we just need to come to,
Okay, so,
which is which one?
no, we have number 7. Yeah, because and then number 7, I'm going to read my samples into the record. And then we can discuss some things. Mainly how we should move forward. But let's get through this first.
Okay.
So number 7 is 1193 Hunter Avenue. This application is to install 10 solar panels on the garage and 4 on the house. The electric to connect the existing utility meter. Commissioners at the business meeting requested more photos of the existing conditions, specifically the house. We need to see the angles of the house through because they believe solar panels will be visible from the different angles. Photos should include a photo from the south of the house, looking back towards the property and the garage. The commission wanted to know if the conduits and associated materials would be routed on the exterior or through the interior of the structures. And the commission has previously requested the panels are flush with the roof, the combined boxes either within the garage and or in the building, and kind of disturb roots of trees or plantings in the yard. HBO staff considers the roofs of structures contributing architectural features, and any solar panels placed on them should be minimally visible. Panels on the house would not be supported with their proposed placement. That would easily be seen from the right of way. The panels behind the cross table or on the rear addition would be more appropriate. The front porch and rear addition of the roofs were replaced in 2008. The roof of the main house was replaced without approval in 2002. Does the condition of the existing roof need to be taken into consideration? Just a question for the commission to discuss. Staff recommends continuation of the application to allow revisions of the design to better follow code and guidelines. Basis for staff recommendation is City Code 3116, Code 11. These standards for alteration, as well as the Victorian Village guidelines on roofs, and the National Park Service, the solar panels on historic coverage of property. And in lieu of an applicant being present, I would recommend continuing. I mean, clearly, if we want to provide some preliminary comments, we could. I don't think I received additional information. So I think the comments from the business meeting still kind of stay.
I think they do too, same thing.
Yeah. And really, really consistent with what and how we go after thinking we would do. So, is there a motion people can do?
I'll do that. I'm going to just close the motion to continue COA.
At 25-00648,
648.
Hunter, or 48, 1193 Hunter Avenue, or what staff said.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right. And then we have one item of the business, which is the common staff approval with check-in. The staff person in our office who did the staff approval list. And I don't recall if they presented or the management did, but regardless, we wanted to check in and see how that was going and comments, complaints, additional suggestions, and kind of wanted to make sure it's working well.
Meaning what staff is approving?
Yes, which I'm sure everybody is diligently looking through.
I look it over. For sure. Everything seems appropriate.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I've never looked it over and said, oh, we should be looking at that.
No. I think you guys are really good about,
Yeah.
Keeping things, and even things that could be questionable, bringing it forward, so. That is the problem.
I agree that you tend to err conservatively in there. If we're at case there's something that comes forward and we can pass it on.
For sure. Yep. That's vice versa, right? We're here to help you too as well. So if you feel like there's something that you need us for, you don't hesitate to reach out. So. Don't concern at all.
Okay. Is there anything you think could be added? I'm not saying it would be, I'm just saying we want to provide some additional feedback of like, hey, maybe we should consider this or kind of keep it on our radar over the next year.
I think maybe today's discussion as it relates to windows, so I'm not saying that that's a staff thing, all right, I just if there are things like that, that are tools and resources that need to be refreshed, what is the process for refreshing them so that we can support, collectively, we can support that.
It does seem like it's probably a lot of work up front to do it, but it makes everybody's life so much easier.
For sure.
And then if they actually had a process for a smaller subcommittee or something doing an annual review or a biannual review or something like that, that's just gonna keep happening, right? They're gonna open new doors, new windows, new roofing.
Or an official acceptance process. I don't know, that's a big deal.
So how it works now and why the office is very reluctant to like look at additional stuff is that in order for a window to be added to the list for shingles, which we're hearing a lot of free-tab shingles are being discontinued at the moment. So I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done. In order to get on the list, an applicant has to bring a specific project in front of the commission.
Is that by law, by city code or something?
It's at least by how our process works, because the commission needs to review it. So it's not just our office. And then it needs to be a test case, and that typically we let test case sit for a year and then go re-review it.
Is that also, is that a formal requirement or is that just what we've always done?
This is what we've done. This is how the office handles this list.
Yeah.
So
Good thing I don't know. I mean, really, it's like, because then you are holding up somebody, right? And I think that's the part of the issue that there's no recourse for these manufacturers to say, look, I would like to have my product as an okay on this list. And then like, well, you have to have a test case and now you don't have a place to put it, so you can't even.
yeah, well, all the commissions have to determine that it's
Right.
appropriate to be on the list, because German village runs very conservative. For their reasons, right or wrong, yeah. They're very good at sticking to their code and guidelines. I will say that, and they run very conservatively with the products. I don't disagree that some of these things need to be updated, but in how the office had put together the list previously, it was the test cases over years, in feedback, and stuff.
But it's real. That's the problem. With and that's then things that can inevitably get outdated, right?
And I think that, I don't know, the test case should sound very odd.
I don't know that it's ever told us anything we didn't know.
Some of it is how it varies, and German village has specifically little stuff out based on like how it's worn. They specifically want a pretty party because of how it is. And whether that be right or wrong, I know they're one of the in commission, but that's not something they want to entertain. There might be some exceptions to that. But I don't staff German village. I stepped in from time to time and I know what I'm chatting with and kind of coworkers, what's accepted, what is not accepted. But it is a huge process to go through and get from this list. And yes, it does see very much reactionary.
Right, I mean, it's, again, this is not something that we're gonna solve here or even in the next few months, but it would seem to me that there could be a proactive way where this is handled, where an applicant, whether it's a person that wants these windows or the manufacturer wants to have these windows accepted on the list. And that has to meet a certain set of criteria that's based on like, the no mitered corners and the this, that, and the other thing, right? We have a list of things that it has to meet.
Yeah.
And that then it goes before the commissions for a vote, just as part of our normal course of business for all the commissions.
So it would be more like a new business.
Yeah, new business thing, all right, we got 2 windows that people want to have on the accepted list. All right, let's look at them. Yeah, all right, here's where we're checking all the boxes. Yep, we're good.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're running a little conservatively because there's also ethics of like putting it on the list as well, because we don't want to look like we're favoring one brand over another, because
I would have had a window on the list that would have been approved today easily. They just would have said it was them.
Right.
Probably I get it's more expensive, but
yeah.
there's also the fact that those windows were old and cheap, right? They shouldn't be on your historic, it's been historic, can't replace them. That's something.
Yeah, I mean, that house was a kind of a weird condition.
Sure, right, yeah.
Because those replacement windows in front, which you saw the like 1970s photo, that was a completely different facade.
Right.
Those windows matched the rest of the windows on the house, which is not usual when you're looking at like something that's been done like that. Typically you get a different profile, different proportions. So it's like, oh yeah, these are replacement windows up here. But when me and my coworker Jack went on the site, it was oh, these windows don't match. This is an odd condition, so.
Well, I think the other, I don't know, I would have loved to see the cut sheet of the window right next to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
It did not look like.
it didn't look
particularly good.
I did try to find it online and I couldn't, but I did find some that said it cost twice as much. But even somewhere it's like showing like the bottom rail, like the height is, because the height is, you know, and it's like, all right, well, what's the right height for a bottom rail? Right? If we can, that's knowable. And we could put it through a criteria.
supposedly that's available online. I just haven't found it, and I'm by online on our network, and I'm saying supposedly because files have moved. And sometimes when you move files, need something.
Yeah.
So I'm erring on the side of caution with it. Hopefully it's there, and if it is in the hard files, it's gonna mean I have to figure out which commission, which area, how the files actually been properly sorted, which is, with the previous staff person, that has been a huge problem of being able to file things correctly. So.
I mean, this is one of those areas, because anything we can do to be helpful down, like, let us know, I mean, like, yeah. Volunteer for these meetings, but we have more time in some cases to help out with doing any of this stuff where it might be useful. I'll sit all day and look the windows. Right, I mean, if it's like, really, I mean, if it's like, you want to help some of those like criteria, like, assign us homework, right? Like, we can try to do that. Knowing that we work in a bigger machine.
Maybe adding on to this dialogue about. So it's not expecting any. Is there ever a scenario where Victorian villages might be different? Or, you know, I understand the complexity and
There
challenge.
actually is. And let me put this up.
German village just puts asterisks on everything.
No, not everything.
So they have their own list, it's just by excluding everything from other.
Yeah, there's one on the window in German Village. I think
Yeah.
that they only do on new builds.
Okay.
And I don't think it's on here. I think that's just how they've set their precedent. Their staff person might know.
But the point is, we could do it if we want.
Well, and if we get to a point where one commission is evaluating a window and making a recommendation on it, I would hope that that recommendation is communicated to the other commissions, but I also wouldn't expect them to necessarily agree with it. Right. So I think just some transparency and ability to have our, look at our neighborhood and it by itself.
Well, there are different guidelines for different neighborhoods, right?
Yeah. One of the goals some year is to get a more like centralized set of guidelines, because Victorians are very lax. German Village and HRCs are very thorough, but with HRC being one of the newer commissions, and even that still pretty.
And what is the HRC?
The Historic Resources Commission.
Okay.
Commission, yeah, so it's all of the individually listed properties as well as the smaller historic districts that are scattered throughout. So we're looking at like Beach Wall, Old Beach Wall, Brighton Road, Levesque Tower, the Brewery District just got moved.
We have a tough job. Stay on all our.
So many different
things.
This context is changing.
Yeah. That is much more business based than what we. Well, yeah, so I guess to Tim's point though, if there's a path forward that looks like, I mean, yeah, that's a good question. What is it that you can give us that would get us to yes, if we don't have your answer there? Like what, we don't even know what to tell them just to say.
You know, what's interesting, Joe, is when you have individuals like that, but what's nice though is, I think they have a commitment.
Yeah.
So it would be, it would. Right. Right.
I do the same thing.
I think that those guys, just even personality wise, those are like the individual that we want and that we need, to bridge the gap that we both have. And so, and I just remember some individuals when you had, during COVID, we had certain manufacturing, certain products that were coming in and were slightly different. And there were just some individuals that would really give us an education that would understand the product and be able to help us
Right.
evaluate. the product.
Right.
And, you know, so those kind of individuals are, not everybody's like that. So it's like, how can we take advantage of that opportunity to then help us?
I mean, even if there's like, if there's a list of 20 things that we looked at, or when we the collective, when the list was done, can you say, look, here's the 20 things that this we looked at, show us that the pro lines match on all 20 things, right? And that, like, all right, this is the same thing, right? Like whether it's mitered corners or measurements or whatever. I don't even know that we know what that list is. But hey, put the homework on them, they'll do it. Right? That's
Yeah, there's commercial interest in doing that.
right, right.
I get you. I see. What are the attributes that was
approved
as part of the approval?
Yeah, the pro lines are approved on a certain basis. Show us that your new one has the exact same.
Actually comes online that matches all that criteria. Should not be doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, ideally we get away from manufacturers and models altogether, but then it becomes, we have to check the 20 boxes.
Right, right. That's interesting.
Or you come up with an application where it's standardized, where they have to show every time you put a window and it matches the 20 boxes.
It does seem like there should be some hard facts, like you said, the miters, the this, the that.
I think there are, and some of it is, I'm not, like, my strength is materiality. I rely a lot on, other coworkers and having filled in gaps, but like, I'm very process based. So having that checklist and the measurements, like.
Yeah, this matches. Right?
Yeah.
And make them do the work. That's what I'm saying. Like, if people are gonna propose windows, make them check the 20 boxes.
Show me how this should be, it matches something on the list.
Yeah.
Posting matters.
I need these 17 measurements, put them all in, and they all have to be in the right range. All right, it's not, you don't get it, like, it's all doable.
Yes, but part of it is, if we tell them no, because we often refer back to the approved, whatever approved list, we've got code guidelines, depending on what it is. And they still want to have a conversation with you, still have that conversation with you. And then I know sometimes it might feel, and I'm not talking about really good for windows, but like, it can feel like a lot, and it can feel like we're discussing things over and over again, which is probably the reason why I'm trying to be in the forefront and being like, choosing from this list, or, this is what the commission has previously approved, like, they'll save you some time, but there's still the process in place, and, we don't want to necessarily discourage people from coming and talking with the commission.
Sure, I understand. Oh, and again, going back to art, I can speak, I've written this material specifications for utilities, and like, I'm sure you've written specifications, but anytime you're going out to bid with something, you can't say it's hardy board, right? You come up with a 10-page thing that says it's hardy board, right? We can help do that for. Sure.
Just a reminder, we're so.
Yeah, it's, no, I understand, we're using it as a. But,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, we're not developing.
No, the point is that we can help write a document, but not just as useful to us, but to the whole commission. To help specify those things, if we have an understanding how this would maybe.
Do people on?
Sometimes.
Can we tell them yours are?
I don't think so, because this is streamed live on YouTube.
Okay.
And we're not connected to YouTube. At the moment, I personally have gone back to like double check motions, or for some of the lengthier applications where like I'm providing comments to like double check my comments are accurate. And I know sometimes for like larger cases, like say we have a denial, that gets transcript. And that gets to go to press, that gets reviewed by more people, which I don't, not all, but all the fake wood, I don't think we're, getting anything in the book and stuff or not, but we can try to be mindful. For sure. Hold on, we've done a decent job. So that's why I'm always kind of really cautious and I want to remind us that like we don't want to violate sunshine laws.
Sure. It's all stuff I would share in front of others. Absolutely.
We're not, for the sunshine laws, we're really not supposed to talk about the active cases.
Well, social. We're talking about windows.
But I mean, that, that case was a good example of why we need what you're saying we need.
For sure, and it was just like, it's irony that you asked the question, and today I think was a case of, why our comments are relevant. So,
And like I said, it's just gonna get worse. But that's the thing. Yep. The older that this gets, it's gonna get. And you said you can. Wait.
Well, it was like approved windows and shingles as for our list before I started 6 years ago.
Okay.
That's why I was kind of like, I don't know, Sean's been on the commission longer than I've worked in the city, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
it's, I think maybe it just come along when I started. I think when we were still at the,
Beacon Builders.
and it just came along.
How does this handle? I'll really just case by case.
Yeah, it's, and when I had started, I think that the irony of that, all the manufacturers that were part of this had their samples there, and then they had applications that were correctly, or test case, pictures of photos, or test cases that were relevant to that, to be able to, say that, hey, they did everything, there were those, this is the reasons why, but they had samples that were there, or that the commissioners, I think that was right much, but that was something kind of that.
And when was that?
I don't really know, I really don't know how many use that stand.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
17, 18.
Take you guys. For names. It's focused. And half of it isn't even technology, just rebranded.
Exactly, that's what I read, the official.
Had a couple that have been updated in terms of like, hey, everything's changed. And one of the former member of the department was really good about, like, she had contacts that would call her up and be like, hey, the name is changed.
It's funny that the reserve windows had mitered corners. I noticed the ones that are on the list, I know that was a thing. Linda was always talking about the miter corners, right? If you want to like, and I saw it on the sample they brought and in the picture, I'm like, there's corners of mitered. So I don't know if this was really the window that was approved or not.
I can theorize later.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need to do that on the record now.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
Yeah. Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Where's that?
They said no. Yeah.
No, let's keep talking. All right, we need to get recordings off and shut things.
Really
Yeah.
appreciate everybody's help.
Yeah, get the red X.
Good.
Yes.
So-